I would like to make a few points to show you how truth and lies are one thing. How it is not possible to speak what you think, and that problems arise when you or other people think that what you said is your viewpoint. That's why it also makes sense to me to start everything with a disclaimer, because you're navigating through negation. I cannot tell you anything that is true. I can only tell you lies. But the sooner you understand that it's a lie, but it can have a function, namely to inspire you, to be confused and then inspired, surprised in a good way, so that you're open to changing, then it can serve a function. If, however, I were to make the mistake of making too many points, or pretending that those points are actually valid, then it would have to become entertainment for you, because it would frustrate you to no end to try and accept the points that I'm making without you seeing them for yourself. This is also a good point to make as an aside, that there may be many videos on YouTube or on any media platform that have very interesting content. Books with wisdom, right? The top 10 books you need to read if you want to yada yada yada. The problem is that if you do not process those books through yourself, they can serve no function but entertainment. And the reason for this is that every book you read that is interesting or holds something that you think can be of value is really a confrontation to yourself, with yourself, against yourself. It creates a buildup, a friction. It creates something that needs to become part of you, but naturally isn't, as the idea that you read about or heard about was outside of you. It showed you that there was something outside of you which is not yet your own. And to make it your own is about integrating it or assimilating with it. I will get back to that another day. For now, let's just say you need time to process whatever that thing was. It's the mistake many people in meetings make, to have 20 to-dos at the end of the meeting, to have talked about 20 things, all important, because there is no room to process that within. We like to think things are objective, but they're not. They're completely subjective. And so the subject needs to become one with the thing that was first outside of him. And this thing outside of him, it makes him feel uncomfortable. And to integrate this thing within him, it takes time. So if you are watching, let's call it, a movie that inspired you, then you need to do something afterward. You need to get to work. You cannot tell yourself, well, that was interesting, now I know something I don't, let's watch the next. Because inspiration after inspiration after inspiration creates a build-up that you cannot handle or process without making it meaningless, right? If it has all meaning, if it's all very meaningful, then there becomes so much meaning that it becomes meaningless, or has to become meaningless for you to allow to let it go. I noticed this before I understood it. When reading books that were very insightful, and I was coming to them with more and more understanding of things, so the depth I saw within the thing that was offered was increasingly deeper or larger or whatever you want to call it. And I noticed I couldn't stand reading more than a page, because this page threw me into myself in such a dynamic that I needed time to process. I needed time to understand what I was saying, to see it for myself, when it was just offered in my head as glimpses, as inspirational sparks. And I realized that if I were to read 10 pages or 20 or 100, I would have to make those points meaningless in order to become able to continue. If I were to attribute them with the meaning that I saw in the first instance, it would be overwhelming. So the same goes for this video. I will try not to make too many points. I will try to go slowly. For myself, but also for you. And if you find there's value in what you're hearing and you're feeling that perhaps for you this can lead to something, then please don't watch another video. But think about it. Think about what it means for you. Process it, integrate it. See things you hadn't seen before and try to allow them to become part of you. Because watching video after video is entertainment, and not because it is on YouTube and it's entertaining you. It's as in there is nothing else you can do but to make it into entertainment, which is really meaningless consuming, which is not a judgment on my part. I like to be entertained sometimes as well. But when I run across something that I recognize as having value for me, or having the ability to change something within me, that seems like the change that is needed, as it's shown, right? It's shown to me, so it must be needed. Then I slow down, then I stop, then I can't stop, but I will push away other impulses, other signals, other noise, whatever you want to call it. I do not wish to be distracted in the processing of this thing that showed itself and created this interest within me. There must be something there. So I must take time to look at it and see what it cannot show me, or can show me, or unshow me. So that's just a little tip on the aside. Now back to the subject at hand. This thing where I want to talk about making points in products, right? We have too many products in the world. And the reason there are too many products in the world, or outputs from thinkers and artists and talkers and bullshit artists, con man, is because they are self-serving for the creator. And if you have something that people like, you like yourself through them, and you want to repeat that addictive thing, so you're becoming addicted to your own output, which means whatever's in the output becomes superfluous. It's just fuel for the fire of self-gratification. We also have too many products because people don't really understand what's going on. So they're making all these products which are telling you things, but they're not telling you that it's complete bullshit. So they're confusing you and perpetuating the idea that there's something outside of you that is necessary for you to worship, to be impressed by, or whatever. Thirdly, most importantly, and which is a continuation of the side tip, which I guess wasn't really a side tip, thank you very much. There are too many products because we haven't been taught how to deal with abundance. And that's a video I want to make separately because it's a very interesting subject to look at and wonder about. But let's just say that if wise men keep writing books, then the amount of wise books keep increasing, and it becomes harder and harder for a consuming party to resist another book, which turns those wise books into entertainment and becomes useless. It becomes banter to discuss during a cocktail party. So because it's self-serving, people have no idea what's going on. Most people. And we are overwhelmed by the amount, which we weren't really taught how to deal with that. The fact that to learn something isn't to read something you don't know and then you know it, but to truly integrate it into yourself, which is a process of self discovery of self, it's a self-focused process. So to read someone else or to hear someone else requires so much more solo work than you would think. We go from book to video to blog to movie to music to everything, right? We keep looking for more to consume, which means we never get to produce our own perception on this. Which has made me reluctant to create more. Why add to the thing that is already too full? You, if you're interested, will need to see through that. And in the end, whatever I say and whatever it means to you, you should throw me in with the other con man. Where the only difference perhaps is that I know I'm conning you. Whereas most con men think they're conning you, but they're really conning themselves. You see, I respect the con man who wants a clean transaction. I make you a fool and you give me the money. That's fine. The problem is, in this world, that's just the excuse to con themselves. And in that, they con you on a deeper level that is way more confusing and not helpful to your advancement. Let's just leave it at that. So my hesitation to create has created this need to negate the thing that I'm about to create, the thing that I'm putting out there. I need you to understand that it's bullshit and can only be pointed in a situation where you could say that the truth for you or for anyone isn't pointed at all. It's round, it's a sphere, whatever. You need to call up in your head to see what I mean. You could say that the truth is everything. And you, from the mechanism that you are and the way you function, are a perspective, a reference point that creates this idea of absolute, right? There's one thing that's always there, it's you. And when everything is relative, which it is, that gives some sort of fixed point in which you can reference things and compare, and relativity starts to exist out of the dualism that there is you and not you. What is important for you to understand, I would imagine, is that you become familiar with the idea that there is no truth to speak of. That whenever someone is saying something, he has to leave out other things. You cannot talk about everything because it would be meaningless. And this is exactly the function that you have in your existence, is that because you are a pointed thing, there's meaning. If you were part of the everything, there's no meaning, because there's no single reference point to allot this meaning to things. I hope it makes any sense if I say it like this. Another way to say it is inspired by what Alan Watts once said, is that you are a flashlight. And imagine if you are a room, a dark room, and you were to shine a light on the wall, a focused light, because you are a focused being, then you might look at the wall and say, well, this is obviously the truth. My light is shining upon it, I see it, it is true. But it's not true, it's partial truth. And partial truth, you could say, is no truth at all. Because things aren't half true, they aren't partially true, they're either true or false in a binary perspective. And so you could say that whatever this light is shining on is the lie. And because we have dualism as the way things work, there's always two sides to the same coin. And you cannot look with logic or with awareness to both sides at the same time. You must pick a side. Now this doesn't mean this side is the true side or the right side. It can never be the true side, and the right side is just an opinion. So what you are left with is looking at a side, then looking at the other side and seeing what comes out of that. But you can never look at two sides at the same time. So you can never see or understand or know the truth. You can only know the partial. And the problem with creating a product or making a point is that it's flawed in its nature. It is a lie. It is partial. It is not true. And it certainly isn't true for you. So you cannot speak the truth, and whatever you do speak is general. And the only value there is for a subject is the application of that point within and through himself to create a new point. And the best point to create is to realize that both point and pointlessness are needed to create this whole dynamic, this dualistic dynamic. People like to know the truth and act as if the lie is a bad thing. And I'm not talking about how to deal with other people, although it's always the same as dealing with yourself, but you need to understand that truth is called into being by the lie. If there's only truth, there is no perception. There is no propulsion, no movement. And so the lie is just as necessary as the truth. And I like to call that up in myself as you feel the truth, but you speak the lie. So you're a being that can have an experience which is not just putting into words what you're experiencing. It's thinking and feeling something and a feeling of rightness around it, right? Goosebumps for me is something I find a hint of rightness. If I think of something and my body gives me goosebumps, then I realize, wow, that was like an agreement between thinking and feeling that said both, yes, this. Which, I tell myself right after, doesn't mean it's truth. It means it feels true for me now. It is a partial thing. And that is the most important point I can make. The point is a lie. But it's necessary in order to hint at the truth. And as you're a dualistic being, you can never remain on one extreme. It is always the movement that creates the experience. You cannot stop yourself, you cannot stop your thought, you cannot stop the world, you cannot stop the universe. And so it becomes necessary for you to become comfortable with that discomfort. To realize for yourself and by yourself that there's nothing to realize except the realization that is going on now, but not because it's true, but because it is. And this becomes confusing guru speak real quickly, so I want to make sure I don't go there too often. The way I like to describe it for myself is be aware that everything that is said by yourself and to yourself, but also by you to others, is one-sided. And you have to try and balance that by the awareness that the truth of things is anti-one-sided. that is the best thing you can realize for yourself. To get into the flow of things, to become one where you are not one at all. You are a separate thing, and you cannot change that until you die. But you are unable to be that one without the other. So really, you and the other are one thing, because they both are needed to create themselves. The one enables the other, and one without the other does not exist. So, we have the illusion of an absolute point of reference, which we are for each other, for ourselves. And we have the other to contrast that with not the absolute point of reference. Right? You're the absolute relativity for yourself. And by that function, through that function, as the essence or as its nature, it is one-sided in its seeing, thinking, believing, whatever you want to call it. And the only way to balance that in any meaningful way is to understand and look through that and realize that the complete picture is anti-one-sided. And there is no complete picture, and there will not be a complete picture. But to come closer to that, you have to be anti or anti-one-sided. You have to see through your own bullshit. You have to see through other people's bullshit. Whenever there's talk, there is the lie. There's no other way. Now don't start glorifying the feeling and saying, well, I just need to shut up and feel, because that's one-sided too, but in a different approach from a different side. This is amazing. It creates the dynamic. It creates life. It is death that enables life, and life that enables death. And one cannot be without the other, and so they are not of different value really at all. Now you might prefer one to the other at one point, but that's just perspective. So I hope I can leave you to think about this for yourself. And if anything you take away from this, it is the thing to realize that whatever I say by its very nature is false, incomplete, and bullshit. That doesn't mean there's no value for you. I don't know. That's up to you. And it doesn't mean I can offer you value that is there for the taking. It's you who has to infuse the value for yourself. But please know that I will contradict myself, that I will destroy the thing I've created before, because I cannot let it stand and let you think that I know something that is true, or that I know something that there's anything to know. Let's just put it like that. I think I've said enough. Thank you, and good luck.